In this rapidly evolving world, where the written and spoken word plays an ever more crucial role, the mastery of grammar and oral language development has never been more vital. Whether you are an educator, a professional, or simply an individual eager to enhance your linguistic prowess. This seminar offers a golden opportunity to refine your language skills and unlock new horizons of expression. My name is Teacher Mong, and I will be your facilitator today. In the realm of Philippine English, a rich tapestry of language and culture intertwines, reflecting the diverse heritage and vibrant spirit of our beloved nation. Today, we have the privilege of coming together to delve deeper into the intricacies and nuances of Philippine English, exploring its evolution, its significance, and its ever-expanding influence of various spheres of communication. Welcome to Philippine English today.
We often laugh at Filipinos who speak English in a thick accent or even using the Carabao English. However, we have this what we so-called the double standard on criticizing people who speaks this way, especially when a person is not so in the field of politics or maybe an academic world. When they speak in English or using the thick accent, sometimes it sounds funny. But when we hear someone in a political field and also people who are in the higher echelon in a society, we tend to appreciate them even if they have this what we so-called fake accent. Now, the question is Philippine English really bad?
To answer the question, Philippine English is not inherently bad. It is a recognized variety of English spoken in the Philippines. Unlike any other form of English spoken around the world, it has its unique characteristics and features. Language variations and dialects are natural and occur in every language. Philippine English has evolved over time due to historical, cultural, and linguistic influences. It incorporates elements from the various native languages spoken in the Philippines, as well as influences from American English, which was introduced during the period of U.S. colonization. Accepting Philippine English or any variety of English is important because it recognizes and respects the diversity of language use and the cultural context in which it evolves. Remember that language is a tool for communication, and different varieties serve as vehicles for expressing identity, culture, and local experiences. Language variation should not be seen as good or bad in absolute sense. Instead, it should be appreciated and understood in its own context. Accepting and embracing Philippine English acknowledges the linguistic heritage and identity of Filipinos and promotes inclusivity and cultural diversity. It allows for effective communication and understanding among the diverse population in the Philippines and help bridge gaps between people from different linguistic backgrounds. Now, for us to fully understand and appreciate Philippine English, we are going to talk of the following topic for today.
We have background of Englishes, the features of Philippine English, including pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary and idioms, code switching, English words used differently in the Philippines, and social issues. Here are the objectives for this session. You will be able to point out the distinct features of Philippine English according to International Corpus English Philippines, or ISP researches, and acknowledge and appreciate Philippine English as valid and acceptable language depending to purpose. First, let's talk about the background of Englishes. The history of Englishes can be traced back to the expansion of the British Empire, which spread English to different parts of the world through colonization, trade, and cultural exchange. As English encountered local languages and cultures, it underwent changes in vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and usage to adapt to the linguistic and cultural context of different regions.
According to Kakru, many varieties of English are found across the globe, and this has classified these varieties as those used in the inner circle and outer circle and expanding circle. Now, what are these circles are we talking about? Today, English has continued to evolve and diversify, driven by globalization, migrations, and the increasing interconnectedness of the world. The study of Englishes has become an important field of linguistics, focusing on understanding the linguistic, social, and cultural aspects of these varieties and their role in shaping global communication. Now, we have the inner circle, the outer circle, and the expanding circle. These are the countries that actually have their own variety of Englishes. We have in the inner circle, of course, the countries that use English as the medium, their main medium for communication. We have United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Ireland, Canada, New Zealand, whereas the other circle includes Bangladesh, Kenya, Ghana, Malaysia, of course, Philippines, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Tanzania, South Africa, India, and Nigeria. And we also have the last part of the circle, the concentric circle, which is the expanding circle. These are the countries that to be considered as zero to beginning English. Most of the people living in this country has limited knowledge about the English grammars, the pronunciation, and almost anything about English. So we have the countries from Europe, China, Russia, Indonesia, Korea, Taiwan, South America, Egypt, Israel, Nepal, Japan, and Saudi Arabia.
According to Braca Crew in 1986, the concentric circle model is the nativized variety of English incorporates innovations in vocabulary, grammar, and discourse.
New items of vocabulary, like for food, for technology, for common expressions, and different patterns for speech events, like greetings and apologies, etc., are developed when English is transplanted to a new culture. This statement suggests that when English is introduced and adopted by a new culture or community, new vocabulary items and different patterns of speech events emerge. Kids nowadays use different terminologies they created and only they can understand one another. For example, the word YOLO, 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 which means you only live once, or the famous LOL, LOL, laugh out loud. These terms are commonly found in social media. Another good example of vocabulary that emerges because of the nativizing the English language is the greetings. Instead of saying good morning, ma'am, or good morning, sir, we tend to say morning, ma'am, morning, sir. The word good is no longer part of the greetings. Again, morning, ma'am, morning, sir. In this context, of course, we Filipinos would understand what it means. Another thing that we have to remember about the nativizing the English language is that English is no longer an exclusive possession of user in the inner circle. This does not only belong to America, to United Kingdom, to Ireland, to New Zealand, and Australia and Canada. English being no longer an exclusive possession of users in the inner circle means that individuals from diverse linguistic backgrounds and countries across the globe are learning, using, and communicating in English. It has become a bridge language, facilitating interactions and connections between people from different cultures and linguistic backgrounds. This shift has brought about both challenges and opportunities. On the one hand, it allows for greater global communication and collaboration. On the other hand, it raises questions about language dominance, cultural diversity, and the preservations of local language and identities. Right, because we are now adapting the English language. Somehow we would think that there is no authenticity already of our culture because it seems like the world is dominated by one language system because everyone is trying to learn English. Right.
Let's talk about our English, the Philippine English. English belongs to all those who have acquired or learned it and use it widely in their everyday lives. We have to admit it that we've been using the language for so many years already. Starting from the moment that we were born and raised by our parents, we've learned the basic English. Let's say, for example, when they are going to ask us to eat, they would say, "Come, baby, eat." Or, "Would you like to drink water? Gusto ka mainom og tubig or gusto ka mainom og water? Ali na, eat na ta." So these are the common expressions that there is actually an English words infused to the local language that we are using. Now English is now ours. We have colonized it too. It is now part of the variety of languages we have in the Philippines. It is now part of our language system. Now, to better understand what this Philippine English really is, let's talk about its features. Its distinctive features are not errors. Again, it is not errors committed by users who have not mastered the American standard. Instead, it is a nativized variety of English that has features which differentiate it from standard American English because of many factors. The first one is pronunciation. Philippine English is rhotic, but the local R is an alveolar flap, not an American English retroflex. Let's say, for example, the word radical. Here in the Philippines, we are going to pronounce it as radical, emphasizing on the R. Another one is rural, instead of saying rural, or the word plural. In dictionary, we pronounce it as dictionary. The second one is it is syllabi-timed, following the rhythm of the local languages. Full value is therefore given to unstressed syllables, and the schwa sound is usually realized as a full vowel. Let's say, for example, the word family, internet, trainer, comfortable, doctor. But in American English, they would pronounce it as family, internet, trainer, comfortable, and doctor. Right. So you hear the difference on how these words are being pronounced by Filipinos and also American. Again, family, internet, or internet, trainer, comfortable, and doctor. But here in the Philippines, we pronounce it as family, internet, trainer, comfortable, doctor. The next one is intonation is widely characterized as sing-song. It is maybe because of the local accent that we have that we cannot stay away or we cannot erase this mark of being a Filipino because the way we talk, let's say for example in Bisaya, if I am going to speak this way, this is how the typical Bisaya would speak in English. There is no proper intonation even in asking questions or just stating an information. Sometimes it's difficult to identify, to categorize, and discern exactly what you wanted to say. It's because of the intonation that we have, the sing-song pattern. The next one that is very distinct to Filipino is
Few Filipinos have the "eh" in American English like mask. Instead, they use the "a" sound as in American English father. Let's say, for example, we have match, and then we Filipinos would read it as much, sample, sample, advertise, advertise, matter, matter, attract, attract. Right. The next feature is the grammar. The first one is we are lost of the singular inflections of verb or verbs. Let's say, for example, the family home rests on the bluff of a hill. Now, what could be the error in this statement? That is right. Since we are having a singular subject in this sentence, of course, the verb should be in inflected S form of it, like the family home rest on the bluff of a hill. Okay. And then the next one, another example is one of the boys give a report to the teachers or to the teacher every morning. Now, this is the correct one using the American English standard in terms of grammar rules. One of the boys gives a report to the teacher every morning because we are using the phrase one of the boys. And definitely, because of the word one of, the verb should be an inflected S form of it. The second one is use the present perfect for simple past. This is also very common for Filipinos. Let's say, for example, I have seen her yesterday. This may sound right, but of course, grammatically, it is erroneous. We already have the time indicator yesterday, and we are using the past participle have seen. And when we are going to use the past participle have seen, this refers that you just recently have seen someone. But in this statement, in this context, you've seen the person yesterday, not just a while ago. So therefore, to make it in simple past, it should be I saw her yesterday. And of course, past perfect to present. He had already gone home. Now, if you're going to look at this statement, it is obvious that our subject is singular. And this is something that just happened recently. So therefore, it is in the present perfect. Yes, the correct answer for this one or the correct sentence would be he has already gone home. The third one is the use of the continuous tenses for habitual aspect. Example, he is going to school regularly. We have the adverb regularly, meaning it is constantly happening. It happens all the time. So meaning that in this statement, the correct way of saying it should be he goes to school regularly. Verbs that are generally transitive use intransitively. Let's say, for example, did you enjoy? This may sound right, and in Filipino context, we would automatically understand what we are trying to say or what this question means. However, this would require an object. Okay, let's say, for example, did you enjoy the party? Instead of just saying, did you enjoy? Or, I cannot afford. The question would be, what is it that you cannot afford? It is better if you're going to say, I cannot afford to buy that thing, I cannot afford to lose you. There should always be an object in this sentence. I don't like. What is it that you don't like? Another feature that is distinct to Filipino is vocabulary and idioms. We have a lot of words that are borrowed from other countries that it is already assimilated, that has already been part of our language system.
Let's say, for example, loans or loan words from Spanish, like asalto, which means a surprise party, bienvenida, welcome party, despedida, which means farewell party, don and doña, a prominent man or woman, estafa, a fraud, scandal, merienda, mid-afternoon tea or mid-afternoon snack, querida, mistress. Now, these terminologies are found in the different writings or different texts that is written by Filipino author, that even if they are using English as the medium of communication, but still these terms or these loan words can be observed and evident in their own writings, in their text that they are writing. Next is loan words from Tagalog. Of course, we have these loan words from Tagalog that is now somehow being recognized by American. Let's say, for example, the word bundok, which is originated, or the etymology of the word is actually from the word bundok, from the mountain. Next is Carabao, from Calabao, or a water buffalo. So, right, we thought that the word Carabao is actually the English term, but this is only what we call the Philippine English word, something that we created. But of course, the correct term for, or the correct English term for Calabao is a water buffalo. Next, Kundiman, which means a love song, and Sampalok, from Sampalok, the fruit of the tamarind, and Tauman, as in the common man or the common tao.
Another translation is local usage. Let's say, for example, the phrase open the light or open the TV. What you really wanted to say is to turn on the light or turn on the TV or switch on the light. This phrase is also found in Indian English. Then the next one is since before yet, which means a long time and joke only. This is very common for Filipinos. What you really wanted to say is, I'm teasing you. Another common phrase that we are using is when we're having difficulties in understanding something or someone is speaking in English, we would say nosebleed. But this phrase doesn't really exist in American English. The next one is we have the phrase you don't only know. What you really wanted to say is you just don't realize. Next is he is playing and playing. What you really wanted to say, he keeps on playing. This is exactly what happened to Miss Venezuela when she answered a question in the Miss Universe, where she repeated the word major, major. Okay? And next we have making foolishness, especially of children. What you really wanted to say is the kids or the children are misbehaving. And also the term, I am ashamed to you. But rather, what you really wanted to say is, I am embarrassed because I have been asking you so many favors. The next feature is code switching. Now, what is code switching really is? It is a register that has developed for rapport and intimacy that depends on code mixing and code switching between Filipino and English. It is largely confined to Metro Manila and other urban centers and used extensively in motion pictures and on television and radio as well as in certain types of informal writing in daily newspapers and weekly magazines. This is commonly seen in the newspaper where the word does not have a direct translation in English. So instead, the writers or the news writers tend to use the local term or the common term for everybody to understand what he is trying to say. What we have to remember is in Philippine English, it is not the type of English which simply mixes Tagalog and English or what we call the Taglish. So code switching is not like that, but rather you are trying to rephrase or you are trying to translate or code switch a specific term or the entire sentence because it would be better to express it this way using our local language or national language for common people to understand what you are trying to say. There are some words and phrases that do not have a direct translation from Tagalog to English. Let's say, for example, the term or the sentence, tumabi ka sa mga sasakyan. If we are going to look at the context of this sentence, this could actually have two meanings. Meaning, to get near the car or to stay away from the car. But of course, this is a warning. Definitely, what you are trying to say would be stay away from the cars. There are English words and terminologies that are used differently in the Philippines. Let's say, for example, we have the word chancing. Sounds familiar? Yes. The concept of making a move in the sexual context is called panananching or chancing. It means to take the chance to cop a feel and other sexual advances over someone who is most likely not wanting the advances. So it has a different context. It has a different meaning. The next one is eat all you can. Because maybe of our love for food, it is the versions of the all you can eat buffet, which offers unlimited food and drinks at a fixed time or price. With the Filipinos' immense love for food, it does not come as a shock to see long lines in restaurants and diners with this kind of service. So this term, eat all you can, only existed here in the Philippines. But rather, in America, they call it all you can eat buffet or simply the word buffet. The next one is the word salvage. We've been using this word differently from its original meaning. Despite having the original meaning as an act of saving, again, an act of saving or protecting someone or something from destruction, the word salvage gets a whole new meaning when it was tied along the same lines like that of murder and is most often heard from the media regarding murder case. The origin of the word is considered as a pseudo-Anglicism of the Spanish word salvage or salvaje, which is pronounced in the same way of the Tagalog word for salvage. So there is a misconception, a mix-up of definitions and terminologies from the original American definition of it and then the pseudo-Anglicism of the Spanish word salvaje. Now that is the advent of the word salvage in Philippine English. Another one is the word live in. Due to the Philippines' conservative nature towards marriage, live in, or the state of unmarried couple living together, is frowned upon. Despite the common practice of moving together in other countries, the idea of living together is considered as taboo and against the public morals. Right. The correct terminology or the correct term for this one should be living in together or the living together or cohabitating. And of course, the word bed space. Not limited to space in a bed, the term began to mean an entire room in general that people can rent for use and are eventually called bed spacers. Now, if we're going to look at this word, when we say bed space, it was supposed to be just the space within the bed, but in Filipino context, it refers to the entire room where one can rent and later on it has become bed space and it is acceptable. The other one is double deck. A double deck is the popular term for the bunk bed, which is also known as the double bed. And the last one we have the word comfort room. With the variations from different establishments who opt to use the term restroom, The comfort room, abbreviated as CR, is the prevailing room for the bathroom. Now, what could be the other term for this one, especially when you go to the inner circle countries like America or UK? They would say it's restroom, powder room, loo, and sometimes it is even called as John.
There are underlying issues with the use of Philippine English in different aspects. This involves social issues concerning whether the language is appropriately to be used in the academic world. Now let us delve into this one by one. The first concern is Philippine English is currently competing in certain domains with the rapidly spreading and developing Filipino, which is in the process of register building, sometimes called intellectualization. In the Philippines, there is an ongoing competition between two forms of language, Philippine English and Filipino. Philippine English refers to the variety of English used in the country influenced by the local culture and languages. On the other hand, Filipino is the national language of the Philippines, based on Tagalog, and is undergoing a process known as register building or intellectualization. Filipino, as a register, is being developed and refined to be used in more formal and intellectual domains. It involves expanding its vocabulary, and standardizing grammar rules, and incorporating loan words from various Philippine languages. This process aims to elevate Filipino to the status of a fully functional language capable of expressing complex ideas and concepts. As a result of this intellectualization process, Filipino is increasingly being used in academic, legal, and administrative contexts alongside or in the place of Philippine English. This development is part of the broader efforts to promote national identity, cultural heritage, and linguistic unity within the Philippines. While both Philippine English and Filipino have their roles and domains of usage, the competition between them reflects the complex linguistic landscape of the country. It highlights the ongoing negotiations between the influence of English as a global language and the desire to strengthen and promote the national language Filipino. In addition, Filipino is not fully developed for academic discourse, especially in the sciences, and there is an ongoing debate on the use of Filipino instead of English for schoolwork and official purposes. The use of Filipino as a medium for academic discourse, particularly in the sciences, is a subject of ongoing debate due to its perceived limitation. While Filipino is the national language of the Philippines and holds significant cultural importance, some argue that it lacks the necessary vocabulary and technical terminology to effectively convey complex scientific concepts. English, on the other hand, has long been established as the language of instruction in many academic institutions and is widely recognized as the international language of science. Advocates for Filipino argue for its promotion as a means of preserving cultural identity and fostering inclusivity, but striking a balance between linguistic diversity and the practical demands of academic discourse remains a challenge. Another issue that arises on the use of Philippine English is the conflict between learning Filipino for symbolic purposes and learning English for utilitarian. Largely economic purposes arises from differing perspective on the value of language education. Some argue that prioritizing the learning of Filipino serves symbolic purposes, such as preserving cultural identity and promoting national unity. This perspective emphasizes the importance of language as a symbol of cultural heritage. On the other hand, proponents of learning English for utilitarian purposes highlight the economic benefits and global opportunities that proficiency in English can provide. as English is widely used in business, technology, and international communication. Balancing these two perspectives requires careful considerations of both cultural preservation and economic advancement, acknowledging the significance of language for both symbolic and practical purposes. The two official languages are propagated through a bilingual education scheme begun in 1974. Mathematics and science continue to be taught in English, although it is envisaged that, when possible, the teaching of these subjects at certain grade levels shall be in Filipino. The print media are dominated by English, but television, radio, and local movies are dominated by Filipino. So I have here three questions that you have to ponder on. You can either give your opinion aloud, or you can just simply think of it, contemplate and reflect on it, whether the idea that you have learned from this lesson is right or wrong. The first question is Philippine English really bad? Second, what have you learned about the existence of our English? What are your realizations when teaching English to non-native speakers? Another thing that we have to remember about Philippine English is that it is not English that falls short of the norms of standard American English. It is not badly learned English as a second language. Second, its distinctive features are not errors committed by users who have not mastered American standard. Instead, it is a nativized variety of English that has features that differentiate it from standard American English because of many factors. And also, of course, English is changing today, and that you can watch the changes happening around you. English is arbitrary and ever changing. That what makes language very much alive. As to end our lecture, I am going to leave you this quote. It doesn't matter how slow you go as long as you don't stop. If we are going to put it in the context of learning new language, is that learning a new language can be challenging and time-consuming process. It requires consistent practice, dedication, and willingness to make mistakes and learn from them. The journey to fluency may seem slow and daunting at times, but the key is to keep going and not give up. Even if progress feels minimal or you encounter difficulties along the way, it's crucial to maintain your momentum and stay committed to your language learning goals. Every small step you take contributes to your overall progress and brings you closer to your desired proficiency level. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Teacher Mong of Lilay National High School.